Alright, so we are live.
Oh. Everybody wait.
So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Right up front.
So thank you all so much for coming to attend ADA's intro session for summer 2016. We did open the application window today, and the cohort will be starting in August. So we just want to thank you all for coming, and we're going to get down to some of the questions that I know you all have about ADA. And first things first, I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, but I'm going to start off myself. My name is Karika, and I'm the program coordinator here. I've been here for about 6 months now, and I deal primarily with admissions, so I will probably see like all of your applications eventually. So I'm so happy to see you all and meet you all. So yeah.
You go first. You're the boss.
My name is Cynthia T. I'm the executive director for ADA, and I've been here since last April. Started the third cohort. So.
My name's Riley. I'm in C4. So we're currently starting our Capstone projects. We've been in here since the end of September, so like almost 5 months now.
I'm Stephanie Kwok. I'm part of ADA Bracket 1 or C2, and I interned at Nordstrom, and I'm currently at Nordstrom.
Hi, I'm Melissa Jimison, cohort 5. I started classes 1 week and a half ago.
My name is Alicia Brown. I'm also in cohort 5, so I'm also very making it happen.
I'm Ricky, and I use they, them pronouns, and I'm in the same cohort as Riley down there, C4.
I'm Jeremy. I'm an instructor. He, his. I've been with ADA for almost 15 months now. So I taught cohort 3, was in the way with cohort 4, and I'm teaching cohort 5 now.
All right, so I'm going to start off by asking all of them a few questions, and then we'll open the floor up to all of you to ask questions. The first question we have is for Cynthia, and it is, how has the application process changed from the last cohort to this one?
Okay, so I'm going to start by saying that we have changed the schedule of our cohorts and when we onboard them. We're basically going to onboard cohorts twice a year, once in August, which is our summer cohort, and another time in February, and it'll be that same month, those same 2 months every year. February will be our winter cohort. So starting in August, you basically start your internship in February. Starting in February, you basically start your internship in August later that year. Each of our cohorts are now going to be 48 students, so there will be 2 classrooms in each cohort with 24 students each, so a total of 48. So we opened our admissions recently today, and we are basically going to admit 48 students for the summer cohort this August. And so our application process is definitely different. For those of you who are familiar with what we did before, we still have an online component. There's actually fairly similar to what it's been before. We have changed some of the questions. And then after evaluating the online portion, we would move on to a technical interview and an in-person non-technical interview. And we used to do those together in one big interview, and now we divided it into two different phases. And a lot of this is actually documented on the website as well. The other changes, we've also just lengthened the period of time for processing the applications. We get a lot, and we want to do justice to every single application we get. So we've also allowed us for more time to review all the applications that we get.
And our second question is for all of the students. What piqued your interest about the ADA program, and why did you choose to apply?
Start. I don't know where we started. Okay. Well, one thing, I mean, lots of things about Ada are great. One thing in particular that I really liked over some of the other programs that I saw was like, so when I decided I wanted to get into coding, I looked across like the whole spectrum of, you know, these 3-month like boot camp type things, or just trying to teach myself, up to, you know, applying and going back to grad school. And I really like, Ada's just this really special thing right in the middle of all of that, because we get a longer classroom time. You get the internship period where you're still being supported here at Ada. So like you still have your classmates, you still have the professional development and like access to teachers and everything here, but you also get that component of actually being able to be in the real world, like into a job. We make a lot of professional connections here, which is really great. And I feel, I mean, if I'd been in a 3-month boot camp a month ago, I would have been done and looking for a job. And I can't imagine that. I mean, I've learned so much in these 4.5 months, but like, I don't feel prepared for a job yet. So I really like that we have a longer period of time to really develop our skills before we're just trying to jump into the industry.
So for me, I had been working at an alternative art center that was a nonprofit, and I had been interested in the intersections between art and technology, and I wanted to get more into that technology portion. And as Riley said, Ada intrigued me because it was longer. Another thing that really interested me was that it was an alternative education model. And it was nonprofit, and it was for women. And I had an inclusivity statement that I hadn't really seen at that time before, because when I applied just like 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, there weren't as many boot camps as there are now, and Ada really appealed to me because it seemed like it was very unique and was trying to promote education towards unrepresented minorities, which that really intrigued me and was something I'd never seen before.
In my case, the thing that caught my attention was the fact that Ada is tuition free. And don't get me wrong, paying a couple $1,000s to learn how to code is not a big thing compared with the money that you will be making once you are in the industry. My point is that since Ada is not receiving money direct from me, it guarantees me that it will be treated and seen as an investment more than as a client. So because of that, I mean, yeah, like I will pay that much money for it if I wouldn't get in, but that little thing really makes a difference to me.
So I was very interested in Ada, mostly because I love the idea of being surrounded by people who are also trying to learn software engineering, who are also, you know, not the majority in the industry. So I was really like turned on by the fact of having a safe space where I could come here, learn the material, and then kind of go out to that world where, you know, you have to deal with those sorts of things with, you know, being like a minority or a female, you know, but here it's really comfortable. It's something that you don't really have to think about as much. So I really appreciate the fact that I can come here and just learn the material, you know, for now, rather than having to deal with learning and also, you know, being an underrepresented person in the industry at the same time. So really comfortable classroom.
Yeah, I would echo like all of that. And also I think something that sets Ada apart is the nonprofit aspect and the mission driven, and that you get the feeling that it's not just like, let's train some people and just throw them out there into the world and then they're going to be able to make money, but also Ada is working to develop more of kind of a social justice framework for that too. So it's not just about like getting more women or, you know, queer people out or into software, but like, I don't know, I just trying to build a framework for building a better world also, bigger picture.
And this one is also for all of the students. How did you prepare for the Ada program? and in particular, the application process.
Can we start down here?
You first.
Cool. What did I do? I was doing courses on Code Academy and Bento and just like Googling and trying to find as many free online resources as I could just to honestly make sure this is something that I'm really interested in doing. I also read and still read a ton of blogs and started my own blog to like keep myself accountable to the goals I was setting. So just trying to learn as much as possible on my own. I didn't prepare specifically for the application. A lot of it was really unfamiliar to me. So it was kind of exciting and fun. And that was also a sign that I was along the right path.
So I prepared similarly. I had already done the Ruby Code Academy track. I toyed around with learning Ruby the hard way for a little bit. One thing that really was helpful was looking at blogs of current and former 80s. They really let you see like the day-to-day, so you can get a feel for like if it's a good fit for you. Another thing that I did that I personally feel is really important is I think we can all kind of agree that we're all like a little bit competitive. We've discussed it in our class. We all have this competitive streak. We all like to do really well, and it's kind of, I think it definitely helps us in this environment. But my typical approach to really any application is, identify my skills and spin it in a way that I know is going to like look good for whoever. I just want the yes, basically. With this application, it was a lot different. I decided to not try to put a bunch of spin and put a bunch of fluff into my application and just really represent me as I am, quirks, flaws, and all. And I think that was really important because you can kind of tell interacting with the staff here that they all really care about your success and they all have really good judgment. So I think that's what made me feel comfortable with not trying to like misrepresent myself or toot my own horn and just kind of be real and know that their good judgment is going to serve me either way.
In my case, I prepared for ADA and especially for the interview part. I met with a couple people that have worked as an HR for technology companies. And even if they didn't give me like the right answer to say in my interview, having those conversations totally gave me the confidence to what I wanted to say and how I wanted to project myself in the interview. There is not much that you can really prepare for like the technical part, just pretty straightforward and instructions. And in general, I was more preparing like for the transition for me to get into technology world more than getting into ADA. It was more like making a research about what would be for Colombian girl getting into tech world in the United States and meet with people that are software developers and what are their complaints about the industry, what they like the most, what are the benefits that they get out of that, and make sure that it was what I wanted to become and if it was worth it to change careers.
So like many others here, when I was still working at my previous job, I looked at a lot of online programs like Code Academy that were free because I wasn't quite sure if, like I knew that I was interested in programming, but I wasn't quite sure if in my case, if I was ready to quit my job and move across the country. So I did a little research and looked at Code Academy and tried to finish the projects so that I knew that this was something that I wanted to do and that I would make a huge life change towards. In terms of preparing for the classroom, I think it's a little different now, but in my cohort, we were asked to look at Ruby the hard way exercises, and I didn't actually finish before I made my big move. So I think I definitely, now that I'm thinking about it, I definitely like overestimated what I was capable of doing because moving is a really arduous task that cannot be taken lightly.
Yeah, well, I agree with pretty much what everyone else has said. I also had done some Code Academy courses beforehand. In terms of, yeah, I mean, preparing for the application, I guess I would echo what other people have said in terms of really looking at it as more familiarizing yourself with code, playing around with it. Is this really what you want to do 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week for the next, like, however long? I mean, because it's while you're in Ada and then this is your new career. So, I mean, that was definitely one of my big fears as I applied to Ada and then got in and was like, I'm doing this? Do I really want to do this? What if I'm terrible at this? And like, what if I really hate it after a couple weeks? Like, oh my gosh, because I also moved here from somewhere else. And I mean, that hasn't happened. I absolutely love it. But just, I don't know, I think like the most you can do to familiarize yourself with what you're going to be getting into and make sure like that you really like it. And the more familiar you get, the easier any sort of like technical interview or something is going to be. And I also think part of the interview process is like Ada trying to make sure that you know that you want to be here. And like, you don't need to know exactly where in the industry you want to go or like, this is the job I want, but like have an idea of what you might want to do with coding. Like if you just think that you like typing on a computer, are you sure this is the career you want? But I mean, if you know like, oh man, I like building this sort of thing, or like I could see how this applies to this other alternative background I have. I don't know, it kind of shows that you understand that this is really what you want to do.
That was all really great advice.
Can I jump in real quick? So with applications open, we have worked hard to add a lot of clarity around what we are looking for. There's new language around what the prospective student looks like, not literally, but like what kind of features and skills and passions that we're looking for. And Ada has always said that we are a academy for folks with little or no experience. And one of our common criticisms has been that's not true. You have to have some kind of technical exposure. And you know, I think our students here are kind of echoing that. They did prep work, they took other courses. So in an effort, in recognizing that, we've created a curriculum specifically tailored around the skills that we feel are critical for students to have when they come in. So that if you were truly at zero, this is the place to start. And it's called the Jumpstart curriculum. It's available for free online in its entirety. It is a self-paced curriculum of 11 or 12 lessons. And the skills therein will be especially beneficial during the application process and to be successful in the classroom on day one. We're really excited about how Jumpstart is shaping up and the role that it's going to play in admissions moving forward.
Is that the same Jumpstart curriculum? Mm-hmm. Do it, seriously. It was so helpful. It was so helpful.
Speaking of curriculum, can you give us a rundown of the Ada curriculum? What's a typical day like?
A typical day? Let me look at my calendar. The typical day is busy. That's the best way to describe it. We are a compressed program. We're going to give you a career's worth of skills. That's probably an exaggeration, like a hell of a lot of skills in a short time frame. And so it is intensive. The day starts promptly at 9 a.m. Like instruction begins at 9 a.m. So most folks are here sometime before 9. Typically we have lectures in the morning. These are 45-minute to an hour discussions around specific technical topics. And then the afternoons are typically reserved for project time, working on your projects. With cohort 5, the current iteration of the curriculum has been split in half between 2 different skill sets. There's the technical making software track, and then there is the slightly less technical but equally important being a developer track. Software is not made in a vacuum. It's made on teams. and those teams are often working very hard and moving very quickly, and it's a special set of skills to move in those teams and be successful. So the being a developer curriculum involves team working skills, pair programming skills, computer science fundamentals, academic computer science fundamentals, as well as a lot of communication and interviewing skills. And that's on top of our technical curriculum, which is going to teach at least 5 programming languages over 6 months, and have you creating software on day 3, and then every day after that. Most nights you have homework. Every weekend you have homework. When we have a vacation, you have homework. If you're out sick, I'll give you homework. That's just kind of the way it works, but it's manageable. Yeah, you're like 8 days in now, something like that.
So far, so good.
They're all right. So we start with Ruby. We start in a pure Ruby environment, and the emphasis there is learning fundamentals of programming, those things that translate across languages and across frameworks and stacks. And Ruby is a fantastic foundation for that, to work on those core skills. And then we move from a pure Ruby environment to incorporating fundamentals of the web, learning how the modern web operates, the HTTP request cycle, using frameworks like Sinatra and Ruby on Rails to create dynamic data-backed web applications. We also do curriculum around semantic and accessible structures with HTML5 and CSS3, all of which are very important, including my absolute favorite lecture on CSS animations, which is my single favorite day of class. Yeah, that to look forward to. Then after that, we go right into JavaScript. We're going to do both server-side JavaScript using Node.js and Node Express, which is a framework for building web applications in Node, and client-side JavaScript using tools like jQuery and various front-end frameworks. Not sure which one we're going to teach in C5. I'm leaning towards React, but we'll just see how it goes. And then we do a capstone. The capstone is a month-long self-directed project that, with my assistance and assistance of volunteers at Ada, you'll take a project from 0 to production ready over the course of a month and ship that out. And then you get an internship. And you do that for
5 months.
5 months, it turns out. I'm not involved in that part, so I've never done an internship. But I hear they're great. That's all I got.
So our next question is for Stephanie. How has the transition been from going to your Ada internship to full-time employment?
My transition has been fairly seamless. So I interned at Nordstrom for, in my case, it was 6 months. And then I remained on the same team at Nordstrom for full-time employment. And it's been really great. Having a salary is amazing. Yeah, after a year, it's super amazing. Yeah. One thing that's, so what was great about my team is that everyone on my team sort of understood what Ada was and was there to support me. And so transitioning into an employee, it didn't feel any different than when I was an intern, but I mean, every internship can be different. So that was my case. But one thing that was interesting to me was the fact that, you know, companies change, technology surely changes, like everything changes. And so now I think I'm able to, like before when I was just looking for employment and, you know, I was like, oh, that a job would be so great right now. Like, I saw that as sort of like a beacon of stability. But then once I was fully employed, I realized like, oh, I have to figure out my next step now. So to answer your question, it's been pretty seamless, but things are constantly moving and always changing. And one thing that Ada has been great about is I sort of know how to navigate that change, or at least I have a lot of support for that.
And for the C5 students, can you tell us about your transition into Ada? For example, did you have to move? Has it been a major change in your life? And how has Ada been so far?
Okay, so I didn't move for Ada. I was in Seattle 1 year ago, which is not very long either. So being a full-time student is like being an employee, but better. Kind of, wake up every day and go to a place, but a place that you actually like the people that you are. Yeah, but I mean, it's amazing. Like, at jobs, you learn a lot as well, and but I can that would be like the main difference. That is consuming most of your time. You are here a lot of time, but it is a lot of fun. We are so in these 8 days, I had the opportunity to interact with 23 other amazing women with different backgrounds, different ages, and it's very enriching. So that's been amazing.
I personally had to move here. I moved from Ohio. So first things first, I quit my job. I took a couple weeks to myself, which was really nice. Then I came out here. It was quite the transition. However, Seattle seems to be very aware of the fact that a lot of people are coming to Seattle for tech mostly. So I thought it was going to be just this huge headache trying to, show up here and buy a bunch of furniture and hope it looks good together and get everything set up right before the program. But I ended up moving into, it's called a micro studio. So it's just this tiny little apartment that's got everything kind of set up for you, furnished, which was such a blessing. So I'm not sure if you guys are, all in the area, but that was a really good choice that I had made. After I got here, I spent about a week getting settled in, just running errands. And then I gave myself a week to basically just kind of prepare for the start of class. And I'm really glad that I did that. I think it's really important to not go straight into the program, from a busy schedule. Taking that moment to just kind of pause, reflect a little bit, and also really make myself aware of what my personal goals were for the program. Really be mindful of the study habits that are going to be beneficial to me, as coming from the professional environment. You kind of have to learn how to learn again if you've been out of that for any amount of time. So that week of just kind of really making a personal plan for myself and preparing to take in a ridiculous amount of information every single day, that really helped me out. So I highly recommend you do that for yourself before you start.
So now we're gonna open it up to all of you. So if you have any questions, go ahead.
How are the students paired with their internships? Is it random, or does it have anything to do with personality or desire for one?
It's totally not random. There is a process we put all our companies through to introduce themselves and to also connect with the students, so they get to know Ada, they get to know the students, and the students get to know them as well. And so through that, our students develop more knowledge about each of these companies, start to form yes, I'd be more interested in this and that. We also get that feedback from them. And the companies also hold events. We hold events here. There's networking that goes on where they get to interact with a lot of the students and get to know them as well. Every single one of these companies comes in committed to complete the training of whoever student they get for that internship. They are committed. They are committed to what we believe in. They are committed to diversity. They're committed to the program. And so they embrace that and do what they do to engage with us as an organization and our students as well. And then we do go through an interview process about 5 months in. 4 months, yeah, about 4.5 months in, where we have about 30-minute interviews where companies will interview students. And then just based on their feedback, we also look at students' preferences. We try to do a best match algorithm of some kind. It's definitely not perfect. It's not something I could code or anybody could code. We also have a lot of knowledge of the company. Some of them have been with us for a long time. I have met with quite a few of them, and so we use that collective knowledge about what we know about that culture. We have spent a lot of time with all our students, so we also know our students, and so it's that collective knowledge of the staff as well that we also incorporate in the decision to figure out the best match for where students go.
That's great, thank you.
I hear a lot about whiteboarding in interviews, and you know the horror of the whiteboard. Do you all like take a time to help students become comfortable with that notion of being interviewed that way? Is that a part of the process?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That was a great answer.
Yeah, it is kind of scary at first. It can also be fun though if you have the right level of confidence going into it. So for my cohort, we had 2 separate mock interviews before we actually had our interviews for the internships. So we got to get those bugs out, I guess, a couple times in practice. There's also someone came in and after hours and did 4 weeks. Just a bunch of information about whiteboarding and interviewing and all of that stuff. And then just as students, we took a lot of initiative too. So during lunch, we'd go into one of the rooms and pick a question and work through it as a small group. And our cohort and the cohort before us did a really good job of collecting the interview questions that we were asked at our internship interviews. I don't know if they'd be the same questions as real jobs, but we have that pretty big history to draw on for questions to practice too. So yeah, it's a combination of Ada's working on giving us a lot of support, but also you take initiative too.
I will also add that I personally am not a fan of whiteboarding. I think that it does not really get at the true qualities you need to be a good engineer. However, many companies do it the entire time, or at least part of their interview time. So I feel it's important for us to set up the right environment, do the training, make sure people get practice, and it doesn't end even in the classroom. While people are in internship, we do have classes that go deeper into data structures, algorithms. Those classes are specifically towards whiteboarding. In fact, the class is literally called technical enablement, not data structures.
Not data structures.
It's literally, even if it does cover data structures. No. And so there's a lot of practice that goes on there towards. I don't know that you ever feel comfortable with it, but you at least start to develop the practice of how to think out loud, how to articulate who you are, those who do whiteboard interviews really look at how you think and how you break the problem down, regardless of what the answer is. And so it's important to just practice, because it's really hard to think and articulate and write at the same time, which you don't do on a day-to-day basis. In your job, however, as I said, some people do ask you to do it in interviews, and so it's practice. It can be trained.
Yeah, so I know that nobody has a full-time job while they're doing this. Did any of you do part-time jobs while you're in the program, or is this a not even sustainable for a part-time kind of job? Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
I've never heard of anyone having a full-time or part-time job, but I did learn that one of our students babysits. Yeah. So yes, maybe you could do that.
Yeah, like, and then maybe if you're already here and like had something set up, like I know someone who does something very occasionally, like a weekend night gig, but like I think actually everyone sitting here moved. So it's like if you are moving here, there's no way to pick up some like light gig. I babysit very occasionally, but yeah, it's not really sustainable to have a job. Yes, you.
What's the success rate for getting employed out of the program? And also, have any APs gone on to graduate work? Are you prepared to go into like a master's program after maybe 2 years of industry experience?
So we've had 37 graduates, all of whom are 37 students who completed the program, and all are in full-time jobs right now, essentially. I don't think we've ever had anyone try to apply to graduate.
No. No, the real goal of the program, going back to Ricky's talking about being mission driven, is this program is for people who want to be software developers, and that doesn't exclude graduate school in the future, but it's certainly not a focus I have in the classroom. This will be useful in your graduate school applications, and I want this to be useful on your day-to-day job, making a living, and 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, I want you making software. But it's your life. People do whatever they want to do, but I hope you keep making software.
You were next in the back.
What's the typical background of applicants coming into the program? Is it non-technical or technical but not software, or a mix of the two?
I'm gonna repeat it just in case they didn't hear it. It was, what is the typical background of someone who is going into the program?
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Can we maybe each give our background? Because I bet it's very diverse. We're
Yeah,
like
let's hear
super
it.
different. I was in the service industry largely before entering Ada. I mean, I've done some like slightly cooler stuff, but that's what I was doing.
I was in the nonprofit world as a job in the arts, and then previously I got my degree in English literature.
I'm a journalist.
Worked in health insurance.
I was also in nonprofits and doing like social justice organizing.
I was making software.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I was making software, but my background is political science. Yeah, me and Karika, political science. Yeah, so I accidentally software, but I like it. Yep.
Is it pretty typical for students to get offers through their internships? And are there any like out of the box career path examples that you guys have?
Pretty typical. I don't have the number with me.
I do.
Oh.
I
Karika
believe
on it.
that is 74%.
Get an offer from their internship.
Yeah,
Dang.
something around there, around 70, 60s.
And what was the other half of that question?
I was just wondering if there are like, I know it hasn't been that long, but like what are people still in those first jobs? Is anybody doing something that you would expect to?
Of the ones who graduated.
Yeah.
Some of them are still in the, so we have 37 alumni now. 15 of them probably been, let's see, started October 2014, so a year and almost a year and a half.
Year and a half now.
And then the second class graduated August.
Yep.
August, so it's been 6 months. Yeah. I would say some of them are still in their first jobs for sure, first positions, and some of them are, it's a combination. By I moved on, I mean they've taken a job in another shop.
And they're all working in software. We have folks at like 4-person startups,
Yes.
and we have folks at Amazon. So, and everything. in
A
between.
wide variety of company sizes.
Yeah, I have a question. So
when you said there's only 37 graduates, did you find that when you had like a cohort starting, did people drop out partway through, or did you have like the full 24 people finish the program?
So when we started out, our first class was actually 16 people.
Okay.
And so 15 completed the program, one student did not complete the program. The second class was 24, two people did not complete it. So 22 graduated. So that's where the biggest
Okay.
comes from. And the third cohort, 24, 24 are still all in internships.
So
And
did
fourth
the
cohort-
people who didn't complete it, did you find that they weren't prepared for the program? Or like, were they unique instances, or?
I think each of those situations is unique, and it's because of the nature of some of those instances. I can't actually go into detail about why they left the program. But they're not all the same specific instances.
How do you keep track of the students' progress, or are there grades or tests?
I'm gonna repeat that too. That question was, how do you keep track of the students' progress?
Several ways. There are not grades. There's no valedictorian. The mantra of the classroom is collaboration over competition. But it's important to be able to gauge progress. It'll help us determine our pace in class to make sure that we're all together. So every week we have a skill check. And this is twofold in purpose. Like one, it informs students where they need to focus their study efforts, give them like a viable, I got this demonstrably, but I didn't get this, I need to study. And it'll inform me as the instructor how to pace the curriculum moving forward. Do we need to take a little more time on a certain concept, or can we go ahead and work on something else too? So skill checks are important. That's every week. There are projects every week. Those projects are real software projects grounded in problems that we have solved on our jobs. And those we try to provide code review for those students. That's always a struggle because there are 24 students and 1.5 instructors. So we're constantly evolving that model of how to provide meaningful feedback on the actual code generated by students, but there's always some component of code review. Then on top of that, there are monthly assessments that are very similar to the skill checks, but larger. They cover the topics for the previous month. Kind of by accident, the month seems to be the marker from when we dramatically change course. Like we have a month of pure Ruby, and then we change course and start talking about how the web works, for example. And so before we move on to that, I think it's really important to pause and ensure that we are grounded, that our fundamentals are there. And so we have the larger skill check. Those are usually take-home assessments you complete over a weekend using all the resources available to you. And there it is again to ensure that we are all in the same place, that we are learning together. Am I missing anything assessment-wise? No, I don't think I am either. I hope not, because I'm just letting, they're listening to me. They're gonna have to do all this.
So, these programs I've heard about, we start at 9 a.m., which doesn't seem particularly early. And then you go till some point at the night that precludes having an extra job. Does it also preclude having like exercise or like I'm curious what people who've been in the program for a while do to kind of recharge and regenerate and take care of their health while they're in the program.
We actually have someone in our cohort who does yoga at lunch. So that is one thing. Like you get an hour for lunch. I don't know if that's going to stay the same. That's like quite a bit of time, especially around here. So like I personally take a nap for half my life. That's how I recharge.
So you take care of yourself.
Yes, it is. I listen to my podcast and I take a nap. Outside of that, I mean, you still can make time. It's just a matter of how effectively you manage your time. So I think it's unwise to have a job just because it's hard to foresee that far in advance how much time you're going to need on, a specific lesson or a specific exercise. Like there are certain lessons that like it just doesn't click for you right away, and you may need to spend hours, like on this one little topic before it clicks. So I wouldn't want to have a job just because I wouldn't want to run into that situation where, I have like a predetermined schedule at my job and all of a sudden this one lesson is tripping me up and I don't have time for it. But, when it comes to like exercising and taking care of yourself, it's definitely, doable. You just have to manage your time. We leave here at 5, by the way.
I would like to add that in Ada, in our first week, our first days of class, we made a lot of icebreaker. But what I really appreciate about those icebreaker, get to know, the women that you're going to share for the next 5 months, 6 months at least, or the entire year, is, like get to know each other, put things out that is very important, like put in the beginning, and it doesn't going to cause like conflicts later on. So I think that was pretty smart from the team of Ada that we put all those feelings and fears and things out the first thing, and we took care of that. And I think that's also part of our wellness.
Yeah,
And Ada took care of that. I noticed that since the Jumpstart, when the first lesson of the Jumpstart is define what is your learning method. And I was like, oh, that's pretty smart. Like the first thing that you need to know before struggling with learning a complex thing such as computer science. It's just define that, and that's your most important tool to move forward, and Ada took care of that right away.
We definitely value whole people, right? Like people are complex and multifaceted, and we want you to bring your whole self to the program. Coming from a non-traditional background, educationally, professionally, whatever, that's not a weakness, that's a strength in this industry. Like homogeny is a weakness in this industry. So when you bring your whole self into the program with your background and your interests and your knowledge, you're going to be a more marketable, hireable developer overall. As far as like taking care of ourselves, I try to like advocate self-care in Ada. I force them to take breaks. I'm like, stand up. It's been 2 hours. What are you doing to yourself? They get mad at me. That's cool. They can be mad all they want. They're still going to go outside, right? Eventually we'll go outside. In cohort 3, we did push-ups. That was kind of our thing, once a day. It was not my idea, but like one of our students was very interested in seeing if she could do 100 push-ups. And so for 5 months, we worked on it. And there's a group of like 10 or so of us who once a day or a few times a week, like went over to a secluded corner and did push-ups until we couldn't. And that was really fun. In cohort 4, there's like the madness around steps. Right?
A lot of people in our cohort have Fitbits, and they're in groups where they compete with each other.
Gotta get your
And they're
steps
getting
in.
like
And so you just see
10,000
people
plus steps.
walking in these tiny little circles. And,
I have about 12,000 steps right now.
Oh my
yeah. Not madness. But yeah, self-care is important.
Oh, so this will be the first time when there are 2 groups of 24 coming on board at the same time. Can you speak a little bit about why you're doing that, and are they going to be doing different tracks or the same thing as one big cohort? What is that going to look like?
We changed the way we used to stagger the cohorts 3 times a year, essentially, where they basically overlap. And the reason we changed it to do what we're doing now is primarily to have a better focus and more time to really support people. So it is actually, as we've found, operating 3 staggered cohorts extremely exhausting and draining for all of us on the staff, because at any one single point in time, every single staff person is either completely and solely focused on one, or maybe juggling 2, or worrying about where 3 cohorts are in very different stages. We also then restart processes 3 times a year. It just gets very tiring and exhausting. So there was a lot of juggling. There was not a whole lot of load balancing opportunity when we needed it. Someone got sick, and God help us, it was extremely straining. And so having 2 cohorts at a time, they're not going to be going with a different curriculum. We want to keep the class size at 24 and have each classroom with their own instructors, because that's an important part of the way we structure ourselves and provide the support. But at least that instructional staff can talk about very similar things, work together on very similar things. We work on intern placements all at the same time, twice a year. And so there's just a lot more leverage. And so that's really the main reason that we decided to.
From an instructional standpoint, it's really interesting and enables a lot of new project ideas to explore, to have a classroom adjacent that is in a very similar place in the curriculum and working on the same kind of stuff. It's going back to those ideas of learning to work with teams and learning to work on code that's not our own. There's a lot of interesting things we can do with that was lacking in the staggered model. Then to underscore what Cynthia said, having all of the instructional staff focused on the same goal at the same place in the curriculum is going to be extremely helpful. As an instructor, I need a lot of feedback. I need feedback from my peers and from my managers on the pace and direction that we're going. The curriculum is constantly evolving because technology is always changing. And so it's difficult right now. So my class is in a very critical portion of their education right at the beginning, these foundational things. So I'd like to talk about that with the other instructors, but their students are in equally important curriculum moments. They're working on their capstone. It's hard to argue like which is more important. And so we find our attention divided. We'd rather have it so we can just throw ourselves wholly into the class.
All the way in the back. Thanks. I'm curious, what are some of the capstone projects that people?
I will repeat that too. What are the projects that people have done for their capstone?
C4, you want to talk about the capstone?
Yeah. Our cohort's capstone projects are like all over the board, doing all kinds of different things. Mine personally is I'm learning a new language called Go, which is a language developed by Google, and it is lower level than Ruby, meaning you have to take care of a lot more details explicitly than Ruby takes care of a lot of things for you. So I'm building an API in it, which means what I'm going to do with it is it's going to like call out to Twitter and be like, hey, what's trending right now? And then take those tweets, send it off to another API that'll tell me like, are those tweets generally like positive or negative? Like the sentiment. And then I'll have a front end, like what you actually see on a website, where it'll be like, how are you feeling today? And you click positive or negative, and then based on what you click, it'll tell you what is trending that you can check out that will emphasize whatever you're feeling already. So piecing together a few different like technology things, some familiar, mostly very unfamiliar. The point of Capstone is definitely to test yourself and see if you can teach yourself. I mean, of course you can, but like actually do it, teach yourself something completely new. So I'm building something in a totally different language. Other people are incorporating different database structures or different like ways of making the website really fancy when you like are clicking around on it, things like that.
I don't have a good elevator speech for this yet, so bear with me. I am building a pantry tracking app, sort of like geared towards people who do home food preservation. A lot of the capstone, so like we're teaching ourselves new things, but also trying to like teach ourselves how to set up a project and like really pick what features are like key and how to separate things by feature. So we talk a lot about building your MVP or your minimum viable product. So my like minimum product is just one person, like you have your little app, you can log in things that you've maybe canned and list all your ingredients and say when they're going to expire, and you'll get an email notification to remind you that you still have 5 quarts of applesauce to eat that goes bad in 2 weeks. Hooray. I'm really focused on it as like learning the cool technologies, because I mean in a month, and also as like it's a learning project. So I didn't have like some cool creative idea that I'm like, oh man, this is like the next cool thing to do. Because as you start thinking of ideas, you realize like it's the internet, everything's been made. So for me, like what made that not feel so discouraging was that really the exciting part is that I get to learn something new. So as Jeremy talked about, like we start with Ruby and then we do Ruby on Rails, which is really awesome. It helps you learn how to develop a web app. You get to put things on the real internet and show other people that you're doing cool stuff at school. But it does a lot of magic for you, and you'll hear people talk about like the Rails magic. So I'm using a framework that's called Sinatra, which you'll also like, we use a little bit in class, but very lightly. We kind of like jump right into Rails. So I'm sort of backpedaling and using something where, similar to Ricky, but I stuck with the same language. It's a lot more low level though. Like Ruby has a lot of things that it just does for you, which is super great when you're first learning, but I wanted to kind of peek under the covers and like get a better picture of how these things all fit together and like why these things work in Rails and now they don't work in Sinatra because I have to build them myself. So that's been really exciting and fun. Yeah.
Sinatra's amazing.
Yeah, I love it and hate it. It's really great, but it's really difficult.
It's so good.
Do you guys teach Agile as part of your program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing our first pair programming project tomorrow.
Okay.
Exciting.
people who are not familiar with Agile, what that means is like really rapidly, like adding small pieces to your project at once, like focusing on like what's the smallest thing I can do and like put it out in the world, and then figuring out how to do that as a team, and then build things slowly instead of having to like sit around for like a year from like developing the idea and marketing decides it's a good idea or something. I don't know, that's not how it works. And then somebody like designs what it looks like, and then they pass to the developers, and then like it just, instead of that's called like a cascading model. That can take a lot of time, and there can be a lot of errors, and that's what Agile is just like. Do it quickly, fail fast, move on.
Yeah. Agile is a lot of fun. It's a software delivered and iterative process. So we'll do these little fast iterations and solve a bunch of little problems. And then those little problems make little solutions, and those little solutions build up to big solutions. And so when you build iteratively, it makes it okay to break stuff because you broke this little thing and it doesn't feel overwhelming or unfixable because it's just this big.
I have a question about Jumpstart. I saw on the website when you updated it today that there's something Jumpstart Live in July, and I'm wondering how that fits into preparing for the application versus preparing for the course. Is it something you expect us to do it twice, or? Yeah.
Jumpstart Live is an opportunity to complete the Jumpstart curriculum or get assistance with the Jumpstart curriculum. Primarily, like Cynthia, correct me if my understanding is wrong, primarily for folks who have been accepted, because it's right before class starts, right? It's in those couple of weeks before August. So we will have made admissions decisions. You'll have known for a long time. I really valued Jumpstart Live because it let me get to know some of my students beforehand. And it gave them the opportunity to ask questions outside the classroom, right? They got to, it was like almost like a preview of what class was going to be like. And especially for folks who did not have a lot of exposure to technology, it was nice to give them a platform. Like they can say that they had done this and they were good at it, and I'd had a chance to work with them. So they are kind of two different concerns. Jumpstart Live is not mandatory, but it is highly recommended. I don't think anybody who did it was upset that they did it. At least
Is
that
it
was one
here
thing.
on campus?
Yeah,
or
it's
is it-
it's exactly where we were sitting.
How much do you focus on tests?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're gonna write their first test tomorrow.
Like what kind of?
So the question was like, how much do we focus on tests? And tests are code that proves our code does what we think it does. So the cool thing with tests is that once you have them and they work, then you can do whatever you want with your code because you'll know whether or not you've broken it. Because if your test breaks, then like, oh, dang, I gotta go fix my code now. My test broke. So it's like a little verification that you can slowly build up alongside your code. Testing is, it's a fundamental skill, and you have to, it's hard to learn what kind of test to write, when you need to write a test, which pieces need a test and which can probably skate by without them. So in order to facilitate that, we start early. We're going to start writing tests this week. They have weekend homework that are all around creating testable code. What else do I need to say about tests? Yay, tests. Does that answer your question? Did I answer your question?
Sounds like you pay a lot of attention.
Yes, I do. Particularly unit testing at first at the object level, and then later integration testing in the app level. So lots of testing.
Yes. My question is about sponsorship. There's some big names of sponsors on the website. Does it happen that can I come here sponsored by my company and then go and do the internship back at my company?
We don't have it set up that way yet, so no.
So it never happened.
It hasn't happened before, so our companies usually sign up without a specific student in mind. I described the process. We go through the match, and everybody goes through that match. There's no pre-match companies and students at this time.
Okay, I guess that's not what I meant. I would go to the same, like people would go to the same application and get on the same as everybody else. But my company would then be the one that I would do the sponsorship just because they are interested in me going back to them.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't have it set up that way.
Okay.
I have a question about the internships. Are these folks who are looking to hire someone afterwards, or most of them hiring the person that interned with them? Is that the goal, or are there some internships where it's just an internship and they don't plan to continue with that?
Primary goal is to complete the training for the intern that they take on. We view the 5-month internship as a key part, like it's the other half that it takes to get any of our students ready to be a full-time software developer. And so a company signs up to provide that. Usually, not all the time, usually they would also love to have it work out where they would make an offer to the person and bring them full-time. There's no guarantee about that. Larger companies always have a lot of openings. Smaller companies, it just depends. It's very hard for some small companies to predict what state they're going to be in. We sign them up maybe 7, 8, sometimes a full year before the internship ends. And so you can't expect them to truly guarantee that they have a position there. So I would say most companies do have that intention, but there's no guarantee. So there's no guarantee on the company's side that they would make an offer or even have a position available, although a good number of them do. The contract does not state that they have to make an offer. The contract, I mean, the students also don't have to accept the offer. In fact, we do have students that interview. In fact, many, if not almost all, I guess in this cohort, tend to interview with other places, potentially take an offer from another.
And Ada encourages us to like apply and interview
Yes.
at other places as well.
Oh, geez.
Say,
I don't think you asked one yet. So, since you're talking about the internships, have you gotten feedback from those companies about your interns?
Yes.
Are you allowed to share feedback?
They're
I'll share some of it, sure.
amazing.
I'll speak to companies who've come back several times and some of them for the first time. Many of our companies observe that our interns definitely very technically competent and strong, but also are very different from campus interns because they come with life experience, some professional background, and more importantly, a very different background than they're used to. And so there's a lot of feedback around the ability to work with people, the leadership skills, the communication, in addition to making a great technical contribution to the project that they're working on. So there's feedback like that. They give us also feedback on the whole process that they go through, and then also them. Some of them already have existing programs for interns, and then they tell us, well, it didn't quite work the same way with our ADA interns because, of course, they're not like juniors in college. We tell them that, like, you can't treat them the same way. A lot of them are generally very positive on the experience. Many of them do come back over and over again. Some of them will skip a cohort just depending on the business cycle and their budgets. They can't afford to come back every time. Some of them do come back every time. There have definitely been a few companies where we haven't had good experiences with in the past. And we spent a lot of time giving them feedback. Some of them definitely like introspect and ask themselves how they could do better to support our interns. And I would say, we've had a couple in the first cohort. They're now in their second or third time. It's just they've been able to turn it around. There are one or two that haven't. We have a pretty high bar in terms of what we expect them to do to support completing training on our students.
We'll take one more question before we dive into Twitter.
Dive into Twitter.
Yeah.
So it seems like ADAS is a really unique program as far as I can see. Like, I can't find anything else like this on the internet. And it makes me wonder why it really wasn't good at a deeper level and what its vision is.
It is very unique. ADA's vision is really to address the diversity gap that we have in our industry today by creating great software engineers from many diverse backgrounds. And so we approach it from the women community, anybody who identifies with the women community. We approach it from being very inclusive about that definition. And really focusing on creating a very supportive environment where we teach not only the necessary technical skills for software development, but also look at personal development and leadership skills and the skills that you need to really build great software. And we believe that great software comes from people that build it from many different backgrounds. And that's where the diversity really helps create very powerful software. So that is our vision. And we also, a couple of things that make our program very unique. It is a nonprofit organization. We don't charge tuition, and we never will. It remains tuition free, primarily because we want it to be accessible. And it comes with it's practically a full year program, which also makes it unique. It comes with an internship because we strongly believe that practical experience that you get with a company that's committed to your development and gives you that real world experience is very important to equip you with everything you need to make that transition to a full-time job. We also place a lot of emphasis and attention on building the skills to transition to a full-time So while our students are interning, we do the tech interview training. We teach them about resumes, preparing resumes. We bring in coaches to talk about salary negotiation and how you should view compensation packages and how you should negotiate salary. We do a lot of networking. We have curriculum around bias training, around microaggressions, around how you self-advocate, around how you yourself should listen to others. So a lot of these things, I think, make us unique because it really is all about being a well-rounded good engineer that can contribute so much more than just the technical brilliance that each person is. And we place a lot of attention in that transition. We place a lot of attention in placement and helping students find those jobs, which I think is a very unique thing above and beyond coding boot camps.
So our first Twitter question is for Cynthia. Are there any mothers in the program, and what is the work-life balance for those with little ones at home?
There are quite a few mothers in the program. I believe our current cohort has
5, 6. Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah. 5.5.
Cohort 4 has 2. Cohort 3 had
0.
1.
1?
Brenda, she had. It's one
Oh,
of our,
yeah.
Sorry, 3.
Cohort 2, yeah.
2.
No.
2. 2. So yes, they're moms. I'm a mom. Crystal, one of our staff members, is a mom. All kids. We have kids from aged very
Scary.
Like
yes.
This big?
Yes. Yes. To one of our graduates had kids who are in college.
You can also check out Tammy and Jenny's blog on our website. They talk about their experience of being a mom in our program, and it's very helpful. So we had a Twitter question. How should women who don't have experience coding prepare for the application? I'm just going to answer this. Go to the For Applicants page. Check out Jumpstart. We've already talked about that, and it's such a good option. Will ADA in the future become demanding of the level of knowledge that prospect students must have before they can join?
Demanding. Demanding is a really strong word.
Really? Yeah.
Recommending, encouraging, maybe.
Yeah, we would like prospective students to have some exposure to coding. It doesn't have to be to the point where you've completed all these classes and courses, but it does have to be to the point where you've tried it enough that you know you want to make this career change. I think every single one of the students here will talk about it. That is really important because it is a huge change.
And it's very difficult.
Yes.
Programming is hard.
Yes.
If anyone told you learning a program is easy, they lied to you. It's hard.
Can I ask you a quick follow-up to that? So if you apply this round and don't get in, are you welcome to apply again?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so our next one is ADA good for someone that doesn't want to be a full-time software engineer, but more of a front-end designer?
No.
No, this is not the program for you. We love designers. I was a designer in a previous life.
This is not a school for designer. It is, we really look for students who want to be software engineers.
Okay. With a resume, should it be more of an educational resume or one similar to a career resume?
It should contain both. We like to look at education background, what you've done in your career, what you've chosen to do. You'll find that the essay questions start getting into why you want to be a programmer, learning from mistakes, teaching yourself, And if you go to our website, we talk about why we ask those questions. We really look for motivation, grit, drive. What have you done to expose yourself? How do you know this is really right for you? There's a lot of self-teaching in this profession overall, well beyond our classroom, well beyond the internship. We make a lot of mistakes. You'll often hear programmers say there's bugs everywhere, right? Anything else in the world. And so really embracing this whole, you make a mistake, you move on, you fix it, you learn from it, and you just keep doing it. Those are traits that we really look for.
Someone would like to know, do we admit students who are transgendered? Are they allowed to apply to our program?
Yes.
Yes. And our next question is for all of the 80s, or some of the 80s. What did they find most challenging about the training or internship parts of the program? Or training? I'm guessing they mean like the 6-7 months. Yeah.
Seems challenging. I would say, see. I mean, this is just something that's kind of a personality trait for me, I think. But when you've been working on something for so long and you just can't figure out why it's broken and why it won't work, it's hard not to let that kind of like sit in your head and kind of, like I call it a brain itch personally. But it's really hard to kind of maintain your clarity and like, essentially just like stick it out. Make sure that you're not just kind of like shutting down or turning off just because it's easier than having that like mental endurance to, keep working on the same thing, So that's something that I definitely try to focus on. I think that it's a really important skill to have. I don't think you can really get away with being a great software engineer, without having that ability to kind of see yourself through. So
I think one of the hardest parts for me coming into the program was like, I knew it was going to be really difficult technically, and I was going to be learning all this new material. I'd been out of college for like 4 years or so, so it was like diving back into that. But what I didn't consider was also how difficult it is to dive back into that while you're working in teams a lot. So it's been awesome, and I'm really, really glad we do it because that's what we're going to be doing in the field, like when we go on to our careers. But that was a huge challenge because you're grappling with these really difficult concepts. You're learning at this breakneck speed. You're constantly like, okay, this is the next new thing, like just try to make something work. And then we're also learning to pair program, and we're also learning to communicate these ideas with someone else. So like you can't just go sit by yourself in a corner and like bang out some code. You're sitting, like Jeremy just said, they're about to have their first pair programming project. And it's like, so when you're pair programming, you can't just be in your own head about these difficulties. You really have to be simultaneously dealing with these difficult technical challenges and these interpersonal challenges. So that was one of the bigger challenges for me, was finding like that balance. And it was great learning a lot, but it was really hard at first.
Yeah, to play off of that, that is huge. One thing that's really hard for me right now is, and I didn't really even like anticipate this being an issue. You learn a lot of vocabulary every day, and trying to be an effective communicator with words that you like barely even know is so difficult. So flashcards.
And it really is. Oh, I'm sorry. You go. Okay.
They're all so nice.
I would echo also that it's really a program suited to people who like to learn in teams and do learn through communication and through that kind of teamwork. If you're somebody who likes to learn like locked away in a room by yourself and working it all out only on your own, it's probably not the best environment for you. And that is draining for even people who like to work with teams, to be working with teams every day, 40 hours a week on brand new concepts, like Riley was saying. Like, it's a lot. Yeah, it's weird how that's like the most challenging thing for me.
Yeah, no, that was the hardest thing for me as well. The pair programming experience was amazing, but also so tough because, like you said, I couldn't even talk about technical things, and then to talk about it with other people was so incredibly hard. And I consider myself a pretty introverted person, but I like working with teams. So for me, it was like, how do I balance, my own time, but also be respectful and mindful of other people as well. And that for me, that blurred, because when I came into Ada, I thought, oh, I'm going to be overwhelmed with all this technical stuff, but it ended up that the biggest hurdle for me was learning that software development is all about people.
Not even just pairing with people, but these are people that you're on teams with, but also the people who you take breaks with, and also the people that you eat lunch with, and also the people who you're jockeying for no, I'm opening the fridge right now. Yeah, it's a lot. We're great, but
Objectively great.
So as Jeremy said, tomorrow we're gonna have our first programming exercise, and today we got a lecture about how to give and receive feedback, and I'm looking forward to put that in practice because it is hard, and I thought it was just my case since English is not my first language. It was the only one struggling with those technical vocabulary that I'm still learning how to pronounce. That's very relief.
And that's where it's a huge benefit to have a different background besides coming just from college or from high school, but having work experience and working with teams, as you have some experience with that and you know a little bit better about how you do that. And so that's a big strength you can play up as you apply to Ada.
It's huge. It's a strength when you go into
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So speaking of coming from different backgrounds, I'm wondering about everyone's experience with respect to pre-existing student loans, because I have both undergrad and graduate school loans, and so I'm just wondering how you balance that, not having employment at the same time. Yeah.
I can speak to that. So that was a huge concern of mine. My personal situation was I just have to keep paying them. I don't really have a choice. So one thing that's really awesome is I think it was C3, maybe C2. One of the cohorts put together so you're moving to Seattle, little information guide. And there are a lot of little things that they informed us of. Just little money saving things. So for example, a lot of us ride the bus, and there are discount cards and stuff like that. So I mean, we're all unemployed right now. We're all students, so obviously most of us, at least, are very financially tight. When it comes to just kind of changing your lifestyle, I think it's easier here just because we spend so much time here, and it's such a kind of structured day, Monday through Friday, that, all of the little extras that I used to partake in back home, I don't really do here. So, financially, there are a lot of different options as far as kind of I don't know, trimming the fat to kind of cover for the student loans, at least for me. Everyone's got a different setup with theirs, but I was able to kind of offset that so that I could be paying them.
Cynthia, do you know, every cohort we have folks ask, does admission to Ada qualify loans for deferment? It's a pretty common question. And I believe the answer is situationally, because every lender has different rules, but we can provide you with whatever documentation we have. I mean, we are a nonprofit. We do have an association with Bellevue College. So these little things that might be able to help with that, but every situation is different. But.
Yeah,
And there's a loan that you can get each month.
Yeah.
Through Ada.
Yes, we do have a loan program that we open up to every cohort that we accept. And it's a loan monthly through the classroom.
And then you get paid in your internship.
Minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Seattle minimum wage. Yes.
Well, so far.
I just wanted to hear from the students. I know this probably varies by person, but what is the time commitment outside of school that you've been putting on?
I think that varies a lot, student to student too.
Mm-hmm.
And
So maybe
probably
everybody can
cohort to
answer.
cohort. Yeah.
Day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. Day to day. I would say per week during the classroom, I feel like I spent sort of on the low end on like required homework, but I also spent extra time digging deeper into topics or I don't know, doing other things.
What is it required homework requires?
Like how many hours?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say for me, it probably took about 7 hours a week, maybe. But I think that can vary a lot. But now that we're in Capstone, I think all bets are off. And it's like
You should be working on the Capstone right now.
I should. I'm doing a lot.
So in our first week, it was like just the first week, so I think they were pretty mellow with us. So I think yeah, it was like a half hour, at least for the like the requirements, but you can go like just merge yourself in the ocean of coding and how far deep you want to really go there.
Right. And you can definitely, I'm not sure if you've done any of the tutorials before, but similarly, you can just go down a rabbit hole so quickly and, come out 2 hours later and be like, oh, okay, finally found the answer to that one question. I also learned all of this other stuff just from going through page after page on Stack Overflow and stuff. So as far as the basic requirements, I feel like you can usually get them done pretty quickly just from what we've seen so far. But also that's still the bare minimum. I feel like pretty much all of us seem to have enough of an interest that if we find something interesting or there's a question that pops into our mind that we can't answer, we're not just going to say, well, that's not part of the basic requirements, so, I'm just going to close my laptop. We all seem to have that drive to, find the answers to our questions. So I wouldn't really measure your time outside of school by the bare minimum, just because you'll probably underestimate what you'll be doing.
I agree with that. I also think that maybe it definitely varies. I know some people have had to spend a lot more time on their homework just because it takes them a little longer to process things. And some people don't, it just doesn't really take them as long. But I do think a lot of us still spend a significant amount of time outside class, just diving into these other topics or you find something that's interesting or whatever. So if anything, it's kind of a balance of stop working, do something else, going back to wellness and time for exercise, making sure that you don't just keep diving down the rabbit hole, make time for the rest of you because there's things outside a computer, even though sometimes it's easy to forget.
And that marks the end to our info session. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you everyone for listening in. Like I said, our application window is open today. So you could start applying, working on it maybe.
How long is the window open?
There are 2 deadlines. So it's
March 9th.
Yeah. The next one is 2 weeks from that. And we start processing based on that first deadline. We basically prioritize those submitted. And we start filling in 48 spots.
Yep.
And so you can choose to go for a second deadline, but there may be just be less spots.
It's all the links and information to get started applying or
They're all on the
They
site.
are there. Thank you for your great questions. You're awesome.